Welcome back. My name's Kevin McNally, and I'm just kind of doing an off-the-cuff recording here because something happened last night, and I need to just get it down in audio format before I forget it or before it loses impact, and I just kind of move on to other things that, always happen in life. Now, this is not a religious post, but it has to do with my church. But it's really not about my church. It's really just about living with low vision. So this has been Holy Week, and on Good Friday, my church had a service, which of course I wanted to attend. So I went to the service knowing that this being a special service, it was probably going to be extra dark, and there may be, things that take place during the service that don't normally happen. Knowing my church, that's how they do things. But I didn't prepare enough. So I go to the church, and I was first outside for a while in the main gathering area, talking to people. But I knew it was really dark in the main auditorium, we call it. So I first had to finally just ask somebody I know to bring me to my seat because I was there alone, so I didn't have another person helping me. So I asked my friend Josh to bring me to the seat, and he was fine. He knows that I don't have good eyes, although it probably still took him aback a little bit, but that was okay. He was fine. Brought me down to where I usually sit, and could I have made it? Probably. I've done it enough. But do I want to run over a kid or, sit on somebody by accident? No. So, easy enough, I asked Josh. Now, this was one of the times that my church does communion. They don't always do communion. And I had hoped that, like in the past, occasionally when they did communion, they would pass the communion, the little thing of juice and the little bread cracker, and they would pass it down the rows. Now, I can deal with that. That creates its own stressors just because I'm wanting to make sure that I see it coming and this kind of stuff. But I can still do it. I sit there and I follow where it's going, and then I know it's coming to me. But I wasn't sure what they were doing that night. So this was Good Friday service. And I'm there, and the service beginning was beautiful, but it was very dark. It was done in a very solemn and dark and intimate way inside the auditorium, which was beautiful. When we came to communion, they did not end up doing a pass. It was come on down and, by section. And I was sitting there trying to figure out how I would do this. How would I go about doing this without either bumping into people or knocking over the tray of juice and crackers and grapes. They had grapes. And I was studying it while they were preparing to, tell us to go down. And it wasn't a far distance. But I was trying to figure out, can I do this? Is it worth it? Is it worth it embarrassing myself, possibly knocking the tray of juice things over, or gosh knows what else could happen? And as people were, called, I sat and I didn't do it. And I felt alone. I felt terrible. And I really missed my daughter, who used to attend church with me before she moved to Texas for school. I really missed having her there because she would, of course, help me. She would, bring me down and we would pick out the juice, and she would help me grab what I needed to grab and then help me back to my seat. And as I watched everyone go by, I was kind of hoping I could catch someone's eye, maybe ask them to grab, but it couldn't. It was dark. It just didn't happen. And I just sat there and watched everyone go. And the issue of everyone may be wondering, why isn't, Kevin going up for communion? That is not an issue to me. I was not worried about that. It just didn't matter. But I did feel sad and alone. And at another section of the service, right towards the end, they did something where, because it was Good Friday, people would go up and write down that their sins are forgiven. Okay, again, this isn't a religious post, but there was cards and a pen, and you could go up and write your name down and put it into this basket as sort of a symbolism of Good Friday. And there was no way I was going up and doing that. I couldn't even see really the cards on the steps where they had set them down front. And you could just go up at any time during some music parts of the service. And there was no way I could do that. And it just kind of brought it home that even though you spend your time trying to help others, you spend your time trying to make sure you do everything you can so that you can live fully, these times pop up when it's hammered home some of the limitations. But it doesn't mean all is lost. And I talked to some people after from my church, and it's imperative that everyone understand that this isn't about the church. This isn't about them changing the way they do things, because it absolutely is not that. It's really about me preparing and doing a better job recalling that they may do something like this during just a few services a year, special services. And so I did speak to people in the church, and we kind of have an ongoing conversation about me partnering with somebody at the church that we can kind of train up, if you will, about my eye disease and when I may need help for things like this. And of course, they're overly willing to help. And they all felt bad when I mentioned it. And that's the last thing I want. I get that they would feel bad. They don't need to, though, because it's not their fault. I said the world does not need to bend to my limitations. I don't need all the lights in the auditorium coming on so I can get up and go get communion. But at that moment, it was remarkably sad because I just couldn't do it. And having a cane wouldn't have made any difference. None of that would have made a difference. I needed help. And so the lesson is just to really prepare. And even people that seem to prepare like me have to over-prepare and to ask for help. Of course, I was already in the situation. I couldn't do anything. It was going. There was no way to ask for help. And I can't, obviously, we cannot expect people to remember and to be thinking about it. And that's fine. But it's up to me, it's up to us, people with low vision, to take those extra steps that we have to take to fully integrate, frankly, and to be able to do the things we want to do, because I wanted to get up there. I wanted to take part. And I was sad that I couldn't. I'm better now. But it really drove the point home that it doesn't end. We have to keep working at it like a lot of things. Thankfully, people are willing to help. They just need to know what's going on. And that's kind of, one of the overall messages that I talk about. People need to know and understand. We can't expect them to understand on their own or to know, obviously, because again, I don't look like I have low vision, and I don't expect people to remember. So there it is. It was sad. It was a good service, but it was sad for me personally. It's a combination of missing my daughter because she helps me, and also just not being able to fully participate in the service that night. Lesson learned going forward, and some good stuff will come out of it. I'm already in, again, conversations, and I've had a few conversations since. And I don't think that'll happen again. This is Kevin McNally. I appreciate you listening, taking the time to spend a few minutes listening to my stories, and hopefully you can find something positive in them. Have a great day. Be good to each other.